is Lisa Heywood, and I'd like to welcome you to Callers Chat, an online space which I've created for callers to come together and talk about all things calling. Today, I'm delighted to welcome to our stage Maria Malone, who I first came across through the dance company that she co-founded, Movema. Now, they do all sorts of fantastic work with dance styles from lots of different cultures in community settings. But today, we're going to focus on Maria's Irish roots, because she is also a Céilí caller. So without further ado, I'll pass over to Maria.
Good evening, everyone. My name's Maria Malone, and I'm going to talk to you a little bit about Irish Céilí this evening. And apologies if a lot of stuff that I hope you'll bear with me, and look forward to chatting with you afterwards. So I was born and raised in Birmingham, within a large Irish community, with an Irish heritage family, and grew up doing, I started Irish dancing when I was a little kid, quickly moved on to cooler things like street dance at the time, as we moved around Birmingham as well. But always did, I attended Céilí events at my parish, and when we go to Ireland and dance them with my family at family events. In 2008, I founded a company called Movema with 3 other women of diverse cultural backgrounds who all specialised in dances from different cultural backgrounds, different places around the world. And we established a company that celebrates diversity through events, community, in education and mental health settings. And we mainly specialise in accessible social dances that bring together people to share joy through cultures. I could talk for hours about that, but I'll try and keep it brief. And when I started, I specialised in Brazilian and Indian dance styles. And then about 10 years ago, I started a journey to make Irish dance and music and language and culture a bigger part of my life again. And that started with my cousin saying, "Hey, Maria, can you, at Christmas, when you call the Céilí dances, could you do it for my birthday?" And it's his 30th birthday at the time. And I'm going to do his 40th birthday on February the 17th. So it's 10 years ago. And through that, I met other musicians who then said, "Oh, can you call for us?" And I was like, "Oh God, better, brush up on my stuff." So went and learnt dances, got myself some books, and yeah, started a really lovely journey, and then started to get more serious about my baron playing, and learned sean-nós dancing, which is a percussive style of dance. And getting over to Ireland was a big part of that as well, going to dance festivals and set dancing festivals and getting involved in that. So that's me. So what is Irish Céilí? As you know, the word Céilí means visit or gathering, how it's spelt now. And that's kind of pertinent to that Irish tradition. I don't know about other traditions, to be honest, is that the records of dance that we have from kind of the 1500s in Ireland talk about Irish dances at events, but also at crossroads and in kitchens, in people's houses. And there's a kind of an idea of the Céilí as featuring not just set dances that we know of now as Céilí dances, but also song, music, solo dancing, recitations, as they call it, poems or speeches. And so in my mind, when I think about Céilí, I think about more like a party than, the 30 codified Céilí dances that exist. So that's kind of like important to me as I go forward. And I was in the traditional music archives in Dublin some years back, and listened to a few recordings of people talking about Céilís and how, old boys talking about old women as well, talking about Céilís, and how these days they're all just jigs and reels, but there used to be the stack of barley, shoe the donkey, a variety of things that happened at Céilís. So I'd love to try and keep that alive. So I have to kind of mention the colonial aspect of the Irish experience, because it does have various kind of has had impacts on how Céilí has developed. You know, in the Ireland was colonized by the English, and then in various points in history, including the 17th century, there was penal laws in place that prohibited dancing, music, practice of Catholicism, Irish language, etc. It was banned effectively. So it's thought that quite a lot came lost in this period. And you have, you know, a very similar, you know, my work is obviously in dance from around the world, and you can see that similar experience and results mirrored in Indian culture and in Brazilian culture, how a lot of the art became lost, for one, and then after those periods had to be kind of reimagined in a way and reborn, remade. And then the other thing that you have that is kind of like ubiquitous after the colonial experience is that the culture becomes very codified and quite strict and slightly rigid in a way, and that's as a result of a few things. Sometimes to be seen as a valid and serious art form, the people would try and put a lot of rules and a lot of structures and be very strict about what was the proper way of doing this culture. And so it became from this kind of like analogous thing into this more strict thing. And you see that in Brazil, in capoeira, and you see that in different dance forms around the world. And also the church played a big part in the development of, or not development of Irish dances during the 1800s and 1900s. And then after that time, or at the same time as the church, you know, cracking down on what it saw as kind of like evil dancing, leading people astray and that kind of thing. And they also were against the foreign influences that came through in dances that were popular. You had the 18th century dance masters, which went around the country, teaching individuals and smaller groups. Whilst they were in that place, they would teach and pass on the dances that they knew, that they'd learnt in different parts of the country, so spreading it all around. And also they would make up dances as well. So you'd have dances from this specific dance master, and they'd have a different way of, they'd have their specific footwork, and they'd try and make their students the best at a certain style. So they were a really massive influence. And then in the late 1800s, you had the formation, after Ireland became a free state, you had the formation of Cynran Gaeilge, the Gaelic League, and then consequently the Irish Dance Commission for Irish Dance in the 1930s. And all of that movement was around saving the Irish language, and then and consequently saving the culture and the dancing and the music, and getting rid of any anglicized or foreign influences, to show that this is our culture and we can be proud of it. And it was part of a, you know, a whole movement being proud of their culture. And so they codified 30 Irish Céilí dances, and those are the popular ones that you'll see and dance at the Irish Céilís. And the description, so this is a book by the commission. They're incredibly specific about how you should hold. Obviously the footwork is really important. You pass in the front, you pass in the back, the rhythm, the style and grace that it should be performed with. You know, you can really, it's very, very specific, and I'm sure you'll know if you've been to a Céilí. But when you go to a Céilí, generally the emphasis is on fun, and I grew up doing it in a social setting. So you had, when you went to your Irish dance classes, there was very specific footwork, but when you went to the Céilí, for me it was very loose and very free, and very simple. But then when I came to start teaching Irish Céilí to people, I realised that actually it's very challenging. So whereas I started teaching Céilí, doing Irish dances, now I would do maybe 2 Irish dances. If I don't get booked for a Céilí that has a specific Irish theme, for whatever reason, someone's getting married who's from Ireland or has an Irish connection, I will generally definitely not start off with Irish dances. I will do maybe 2 or something, and they'll be like the bottom of the set. You know, once everyone's got their footwork and they're having a good time and they're ready for a challenge, basically. Because I did find that things that I took for granted, 7s to the side and 2 short 3s, how to swing, was like way out of what people's ability level or what they came to do. They didn't want to spend 15 minutes learning that that footwork. So I had that process of letting go of wanting to do everything perfectly, wanting to do everything correctly, feeling that was really important. So it's been interesting. So some of the characteristics of Irish Céilí as I see it, I think the music is a lot faster than other Céilí forms that I've encountered and I've been so thrilled to be a part of. The patterns can be really, really intricate, and generally there's always a granny or two to push or pull you into place, or elbow you. You're doing it wrong. Which is always good fun. And there's a lot of fancy footwork. You've got the rise and grind, you've got your 7s to the side, which you'll see a kind of a very formal version of in your step dancing, your river dance style of dancing. And then you've also got battering, which happens in some dances. That's more prevalent in set dances, which I might mention later. You dance up on your toes a lot, and that's mentioned in the books, and that's the style of dancing. It's very kind of light and kind of delicate and swift. You have to be on your toes to be as swift as you need to be, so that the grannies don't go. The holds can be quite specific. So, one thing I do like to teach sometimes is the Irish, well, we call it an Irish swing, and I'm sure a lot of other people do it, which is where you're standing right shoulder to right shoulder, and you put your right arm around the person at the waist of the person next to you, and your left arm goes underneath, and you link a nice tight grip, or you can just rest their hand on your shoulder, and you'll pivot around your right foot, and you really get up some speed. Like if you do that with my mum, you're dizzy for days afterwards. It's a really good fun part of it. I find that's quite characteristic. We also have the Céilí start. I don't know if that's prevalent in other styles. I haven't always seen that in other styles, or there's a different way of doing an introduction to the music. So in a 4/4 rhythm, that'll be 4 bars in the music. So the A part, usually of the tune, will play. And I like that because it gives a good little intro for everyone to get in the rhythm of it. And I usually say you can stamp your feet or clap your hands or just bob along. And when I've worked with other Céilí bands from different cultural backgrounds, they haven't had that as a kind of standard. Whereas if you download an album of Irish Céilí music, it will generally have that. The calling is very rhythmical. Turn to your partner, house around, that's always the way. And so I kind of like, that was kind of ingrained in me. But also noises like, you, we do that a lot. Or I do that a lot. Me and my ma do that a lot, at least. And I try and encourage that as well. I generally do a lot of, give me a woo, woo, give me a yeehaw, you. I like it to be a bit rowdy, basically. That sense of abandon, I like to kind of come through. Maybe that feeling of dancing at a crossroads, out in the open, or dancing at an illicit party, that sense of joy and resistance. I like to hold with me as I'm calling. And I mentioned there's kind of other popular dances that you might dance at a Céilí. So Shoe the Donkey is a mazurka. And that's quite simple. A hopper one, you've got some nods here from Hi Jane. Hopper 1 2, hopper 1 2, hopper 1 2, stomp turn. That's always a good fun one, and a chance to let go of the jigs and the reels and the footwork and everyone feeling like they have to suddenly look like a river dance dancer. That's a nice one I like to put in sometimes. And Stack of Barley is one that is, in the 30 dances. But it's kind of a bit of an anomaly because it's a hornpipe, and I do prefer it without the sevens to the side. It's to kind of let the footwork go a little bit in that one, and have some nice stamps and like shuffly footwork. It's kind of fun. And then also sometimes, in our parish at least, they'd have a break and you'd do a waltz, an Irish waltz, or an Irish jive, to a bit of kind of country music, which is, that's just the nature of how I grew up doing it. So how I kind of try and teach is when I'm doing the Irish dances, try and make people feel comfortable and just have fun with it. So I'll often say, okay, now it's time to do your Michael Flatley impressions, live your best Riverdance realness fantasy right now. So imagine you're on Riverdance, you've got your lovely costume and, that kind of thing. So, if the footwork's not right, just imagine it, try and imagine you're at a crossroads or at a kitchen dance or, and try and make it kind of just fun and funny. And then also try and use language that people will understand, if I've sometimes cast off, people just don't get it. So sometimes I'll say conga line, just for a bit of crack, basically. Conga line, or follow like little duckies. No, don't start going into each other's places. Just little ducks, little ducks, little ducks. All stay in the same place in the line. You've all been there, I'm sure. Freeze, I like to say if I'm teaching it, I'll go like, oh, cast off, make the bridge go underneath, freeze. Okay, we're going to do the next movement. Or, oh, what I say a lot is, okay, I've got a gold star for anyone that can remember the first movement that we've done. Okay, you've got a gold star for the second person who can remember the second movement. And just try and make it kind of gamify it a little bit like that. And I find that stuff that works for kids works equally as well with adults. Loads of praise, rewinding things is always quite fun. So, okay, no, you messed that move up completely. Let's rewind, So everyone rewinds back into their place as I do that ridiculous noise. Anything to break it up, basically. I like to high five people, I like to get glamorous assistants on the dance floor and demonstrate a lot to the music. Ask their names, get them to demonstrate, give them a round of applause, just loads of praise, basically. Everyone collect your certificates at the end of the night, because you're now all professional Céilí dancers. Well done, you're incredible. And as I said, I build up to the Irish dances usually, and I'll say something like, because you've all been so amazing, I'm going to give you a challenge. Are you ready for it? And some of them will be like, no. But usually they're kind of at the right stage to get their teeth into something new. And, then I'll kind of drip in little bits of technique. And again, like, if we're going to work on the footwork, okay, Michael Flatley impressions come out. You've got a bit of this, a bit of Lord of the Dance. That kind of gas. So yeah, and then, lots of other little tips that you'll all do. Try and arrange the set so there's some decent dancers in each group to start off with, or that the best dancers are kind of couples number one, so you can start demonstrating. And run through everything in the rhythm. Something I always also do is speed runs. So I'll just talk through it in rhythm as fast as I can, and they all have to kind of like race around and try and just have an absolutely chaotic time. And that's something I actually picked up from my dance training, because that's something that we'll do if I'm learning a long routine and everyone's like, oh God, I haven't got it. You go, okay, you're going to do it to this speed, 5, 6, 7, 8, ba, da, 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 and everyone, your body kicks in rather than your mind. Your muscle memory kicks in, and you do it fast. So then you know that you can do it when it comes to the actual pace of it. So something about varying the speeds I find really kind of ingrains the movement and is a bit of a good laugh as well. Yeah, and you know, I'll teach the footwork, but then I'll say, guys, if you're doing, and girls, if you're doing anything resembling this, I'll be absolutely thrilled. You know, I might teach the rise and grind step, which is hop in front, hop behind, step 2, 3. You know, but I might say if it looks like diddly dee diddly dee, hop 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 hop, I'll just be totally thrilled. You know, so don't worry about it. Yeah, and like I said, yeah, noises, bringing the abandon, having a good old hoolie is always great. And I've also started playing Bowron and doing a bit of the Shanos, sometimes on the stage, sometimes off the stage, just to kind of bring the vibes. The band leader calls me Trad Bez. I don't know if you're familiar with Bez from the Happy Mondays. It's just kind of like vibes master, just not really part of the band, just kind of like is at the side of the stage just dancing, getting everyone going. So apparently I'm Trad Bez. Yeah, I was going to quickly mention quadrilles, so sorry, set dances. So you might see those at an Irish Céilí as well. If they say now we're going to do a set dance, be ready, because basically it's like 7 Céilí dances put together. So there'll be 7 different figures, and they all vary slightly. And I'm sure you know there's quadrilles went around the world, right? So they started off in the French courts and cotillion and went around the world and have morphed into, you know, there's dances in the Caribbean based on quadrilles, a big, lovely big skirts and lots of floaty whirly movements. But in Ireland, they got fast, like I said. They got real frantic, and they got real fancy footwork, and then the battering. Yeah, so they're just and they were something that the Gaelic League and the Commission for Irish Dance tried to kind of get rid of from Irish dances because they weren't of Irish origin. But it doesn't make a lot of sense to me because the Irish really made them their own. You know, and have you seen set dancing or have been to set dance? You know, it's absolutely thrilling. There's loads of amazing festivals around the world now, and I'd really suggest that you try it if you haven't already. It's just really exhilarating, like the complexity of the dance. You just go into a completely different zone, and the footwork that you can pick up is really great. Yeah, so I think I've come to the end of everything that I had to say. Oh my gosh, I'm actually quite on time. I was saying to Lisa, I usually ramble like anything. But there you go.